13 months after the divorce, she emailed closure, but the attachment name made my hands shake before I opened it. Hi, I'm Marcus, 34, and last month I celebrated the 1-year anniversary of the best decision I ever made, walking away from an 8-year marriage with nothing but a duffel bag, my guitar, and the clearest mind I've ever had. I didn't leave in a blaze of screaming matches or dramatic ultimatums. No slammed doors, no suitcase tossed out onto the curb. Just a handwritten note beside her favorite mug. The joke's over. So is the marriage. I wrote it on our stupid granite countertop, her pride and joy, that cold Thursday morning before the city even woke up. It had started the Tuesday before. I just finished a quiet overnight shift at Techor Solutions where I worked security, 12 hours watching server room temperatures and reviewing badge logs while sipping gas station coffee and listening to true crime podcasts. I'd stopped by that overpriced coffee shop on 5th, the one Vivian always said was too far from her office, and picked up her order exactly how she liked it. Almond milk, extra hot, no foam, whisper of cinnamon, like it was a goddamn haiku. I opened our door as quietly as I could. I was planning a surprise. Maybe we'd sit on the balcony for 10 minutes before I passed out. But then I heard her voice from the bedroom. That's when everything changed. She was laughing in a way I hadn't heard in months, giddy, girlish, and she was wearing that blue dress, the one that made my brain short-circuit the first time I saw her in it. Hair done, makeup subtle but on point. At 7:20 in the morning? Through the crack in the door, I caught just enough of the conversation to understand exactly what was going on. Her voice floated through with that intoxicating blend of flirtation and familiarity. "Oh, stop, Landon, you're ridiculous. You just get me, you know? Not like someone who's always too tired to even hold a conversation." There was a pause, a giggle, then, "Maybe I do need a new work husband." I stood there holding 2 coffee cups that suddenly felt like 50-pound weights. The smell of cinnamon made my stomach turn. I stared into our kitchen like I was watching it through a security monitor, my entire marriage playing out on a screen I could no longer control. It wasn't just the emotional intimacy, it wasn't even the betrayal. It was the casualness of it, the way she erased me with a joke. 8 years of shared history reduced to a punchline for Landon from the office. I didn't say anything, not then. Not even when she came out of the bedroom 10 minutes later and gasped when she saw me standing there. She smiled, too quickly, too wide, and asked, "What are you doing home?" I brought coffee. I set it down without looking at her. I was already deciding which of my tools I'd take and which I'd leave behind. She looked relieved, and that's when I knew. She already knew she was cheating. I didn't confront her that day. I went through the motions like nothing was wrong. Ate toast, nodded at her story about some office team-building game involving marshmallows and spaghetti, how Landon's tower was the tallest, of course, and then I kissed her on the forehead before heading to bed like a dutiful husband. But I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling fan and counted rotations, trying to talk myself down from the suspicion that had turned into something far more solid. By evening, when she left for her book club, I opened her tablet. Password was still the name of her childhood dog, because subtlety was never Vivian's strong suit. I didn't want to dig. I needed to. The messages were worse than I had imagined. Not explicit, not yet, but pages of flirtation, emoji-laced confessions, and shared jokes that reeked of emotional intimacy. She had written, "It's so nice to feel seen again," and later, "Sometimes I forget what it's like to be around someone who listens." There was even a selfie, her in the office bathroom, lips slightly puckered, captioned, "For your eyes only, Jimmy." The rage didn't come all at once. It seeped into me like slow poison. But it was the messages about me that burned the hottest. "Marcus is always exhausted. It's like being married to a ghost. He doesn't even notice when I wear something new. I feel like I'm living with a roommate who pays the bills and nothing else." All those months I'd worked double shifts so we could afford her granite countertops and trendy yoga classes. This was how she thanked me?
I didn't yell, I didn't throw her tablet, I didn't even cry. I made a list. A literal, itemized checklist of everything I needed to do to disappear from her life like I'd never been there. By the time she came home giggling and smelling like hotel soap, I was already planning the extraction like a military op. Next morning at 5:30, I called Ryan, my best friend since junior year, and the only person I trusted not to ask questions. Told him I needed help moving out today. He grunted, "Give me an hour," like I'd asked him to help me carry a grill, not disassemble my marriage. By the time Vivian woke up, I had already transferred half our joint account to mine, canceled my part of the lease, and packed 2 suitcases, my guitar, and the toolkit my dad gave me. I didn't leave her a goodbye speech, just one line scrawled on a sticky note next to her favorite mug. "The joke's over. So's the marriage." Ryan pulled up in his dusty F-150 just after 7 a.m., thermos in one hand, truck bed empty and ready for 8 years of my life. He didn't ask for the story, just nodded at the boxes lined up neatly by the door and started hauling. That's what real friends do. They don't demand explanations when the world's clearly gone sideways. We loaded fast and quiet. 2 trips to the storage unit I'd rented the night before. No small talk, just the rhythmic lift and slide of cardboard on truck bed. A kind of funeral procession for a marriage, minus the flowers. By 11 o'clock, I was gone. No trace of Marcus remained in that condo except the note and the echo of a life that once made sense. She didn't call until 6:47 that night. The first call I let ring, the second, the fifth. By the 10th, I turned my phone to silent and let the voicemail icon pile up like snow. 37 missed calls. Her voice slowly unraveling from polished concern to full-blown panic. The early ones were firm, practiced. "Marcus, can you please call me back? This isn't funny." By voicemail 15, "I don't understand what's happening. Just come home and we'll talk, please." Claire texted around 8:30. "Claire, Viv's freaking out. Says you vanished. What's going on? Are you okay?" I sent back, "Me, I'm fine. Tell her not to contact me. Divorce papers coming soon." Claire, "What happened? Did she cheat?" Me, "Emotional affair. Found the messages. Done pretending." She didn't respond after that. Didn't need to. She knew Vivian too well. By the next morning, Vivian had mobilized our entire mutual contact list. Friends, co-workers, even her yoga instructor, some woman named Dana, who sent a concerned DM about holding space for healing. Healing? Vivian wanted a scene, an apology, a drama to star in where she got to cry pretty and frame herself as the misunderstood wife of a cold, emotionally unavailable man. But I wasn't giving her a script. Instead, I gave her silence. That weekend, she tried showing up at my workplace. Yes, my workplace, claiming it was a personal emergency. But I had already informed my manager. Security didn't even let her pass the lobby. She left a note with the front desk. "I know I messed up. Can we please just talk?" I didn't respond, not because I was bitter, but because I was finally done giving second chances to someone who never offered me a first one. On Monday morning, Patricia Chin's office filed the paperwork. Irretrievable breakdown of marriage. 6 words. No fault, no negotiation. That afternoon, I got one last text from Vivian's number before I blocked it for good. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. It was just flirting. You always overreact." That was the moment I stopped second-guessing. Because nothing says "I've learned nothing" like calling betrayal just flirting. Vivian thought I'd eventually come around, that after a few days alone in my budget hotel room, I'd get lonely, regretful, maybe even nostalgic enough to believe her version of things, that all those hard-eyed emojis and late-night texts were harmless banter, that my exhaustion was the real villain. But what I actually felt that week was relief. Real, physical, soul-deep relief. I didn't have to tiptoe around her moods anymore, didn't have to pretend to care about her boss's annoying habits or her coworker's gluten allergy drama. I could eat takeout on my bed, watch documentaries on old motorcycles, and sleep like a man who no longer lived with quiet betrayal disguised as couplehood. By Friday, I had a rhythm. Work, dinner from the diner next door, a jog through the industrial park, then late-night emails with my lawyer, who was moving fast and clean. Arizona's no-fault divorce laws were doing exactly what I needed, letting me erase her without groveling for closure. Vivian, on the other hand, was spiraling. She sent a new email from a fresh Gmail account she probably created to bypass my blocks, a long, breathless essay titled, "Please read this before you hate me forever." I didn't open it, just forwarded it straight to Patricia. That Saturday, Claire called me. I didn't pick up, but her voicemail came through like a bullet. "Marcus, I know you don't want to hear this, but you should know Vivian brought Landon to your old condo. Said they wanted to talk to you together to clear things up. She's calling it a misunderstanding and thinks if you see them face to face, you'll realize it was all innocent." Innocent. She actually thought dragging her emotional affair partner into our home would somehow convince me I'd overreacted. But here's the thing. I'd been there that very morning. I'd used my old key, slipped in at 6 a.m. and collected the last few things I'd left behind. My winter coat, my dad's socket wrench set, a few old books she never cared about. She'd already redecorated, threw out our framed honeymoon photo and replaced it with some abstract canvas nonsense from Target. Fine by me. Before I left, I sat at the granite counter, her beloved granite, and wrote a note. Not a rant, a report. Cold, methodical, detailed. Timestamps of texts, quotes from her messages, dates of those team-building exercises that ended past 10 p.m. I laid it all out like a forensic analysis. The final paragraph? For Landon. Pursuing a married coworker isn't just unethical, it's stupid. If she'll betray me this easily, what makes you think she won't do the same to you once you get boring? I folded the letter neatly and placed it under her favorite mug, the one with "Live Your Best Life" in cursive gold. Let her sip that with her delusion. According to Ryan, who heard it all from Claire, who got it straight from Vivian, the fallout was biblical. Vivian and Landon showed up at the condo around noon, probably expecting to catch me brooding on the couch, ready to be guilt-tripped into some humiliating reconciliation scene. Instead, they found my parting gift waiting on the kitchen counter like a landmine dressed as a letter. Claire said Vivian called her in tears, ranting about how I'd made everything sound so cold, how I twisted their messages, how I was weaponizing their friendship. The usual deflections, wrapped in self-pity and panic. What she didn't expect, apparently, was Landon's reaction. He read the letter, really read it, then turned on her. Claire said he asked her point blank, "Wait, your husband was still living here while you were texting me like that?" Vivian tried to laugh it off, said I was just being dramatic, that I always had trust issues. But Landon wasn't buying it. He realized, probably for the first time, that the fun, flirty office banter he'd enjoyed was actually a slow-motion car crash he'd wandered into without reading the road signs. And worse, that now I had everything on record. Dates, times, screenshots.
Enough to nuke both their reputations if I ever decided to go nuclear. Claire said Landon left mid-argument, no goodbye, just grabbed his laptop bag and peaced out, while Vivian was still trying to explain how she was just venting. She lost both of us in one afternoon. After that, the messages from her slowed, then stopped. No more desperate calls, no more half-baked apologies, just silence. A week later, the process server delivered her the official divorce packet. According to Claire, she was still in her robe at 2 p.m., looking like someone who'd aged 5 years in 5 days. The paperwork spelled it all out. Equal split of assets, community property law. She could keep the condo, if she qualified for the mortgage solo. Our joint debts? Split based on income, meaning she was suddenly responsible for 60% of the credit cards she'd used like they were rewards for existing. The message was clear. You wanted independence? Here it is. Hope it fits. She sent one last text from a new number. You're throwing away 8 years over nothing. You'll regret this. No one will ever understand you like I did. I took a screenshot, sent it to Patricia for the file, then blocked the number. Didn't respond, because nothing needed to be said.
She understood me just fine. She just didn't respect me. By the time the divorce clock hit the 30-day mark, I was already living like a man who'd been single for years, not weeks. The air in my cheap hotel room was cleaner than the tension-filled silence I used to come home to. My thoughts were mine again. No more overanalyzing my tone, no more wondering if my quiet nights were being compared to someone else's punchlines at the office. Vivian, meanwhile, was learning the hard way what self-sufficiency actually felt like. Claire kept me updated whether I wanted to or not. She had that tone, half gossip, half concern. Told me Vivian had started working weekends to afford the condo on her own, had canceled yoga, had switched from boutique coffee to gas station drip. Said her Instagram went dark for the first time in years. Apparently, her live your best life lifestyle didn't run so well without an unpaid second income. Then came the cherry on top. David, one of our old friends from a mutual friend circle, worked in the same office complex as Vivian's insurance firm. He spotted Landon, not just in the building, but at the cafe downstairs, proposing to someone from accounting. 3 months after the disaster at the condo, and he was already kneeling with a ring in front of a woman Vivian probably mocked for wearing flats to work. I didn't feel smug. I didn't gloat. I felt nothing. Just the quiet confirmation that I dodged a bullet that had already gone through my wallet, my peace of mind, and my sense of partnership. If anything, I hope she was watching it unfold in real time, watching the man she risked it all for choose someone else, watching a work spouse turn into a cautionary tale. By month 4, I had moved into a small place in Tempe, nothing flashy, a single-story house with a garage and just enough space to breathe. I'd turned that garage into a workshop, bought myself a vintage Triumph motorcycle off Craigslist that needed more love than I did at that point. Every evening, I sat out back on a folding chair, beer in hand, listening to the desert wind scrape against the fence. No drama, no performance. Just me and the hum of a life that wasn't being constantly re-scripted by someone else's insecurities. The first weekend in that house, Ryan came over with steaks and a Bluetooth speaker. We grilled, drank, and talked about nothing important, just how he was thinking about switching to a union gig and how the Cardinals were probably going to break his heart again. It was the most peace I'd felt in years. No eggshells, no guessing games. Just fire, meat, and a friend who didn't ask me to apologize for needing quiet. And that's when it hit me. This was the life Vivian used to call boring, and it was exactly what I'd been starving for.
6 months out, everything Vivian predicted I'd regret, I hadn't. I didn't miss the condo. I didn't miss the granite counters or the way she weaponized sighs when I said I was too tired to go out. I especially didn't miss the mental gymnastics of trying to figure out if she was upset or just being playfully moody. What I had instead was a stable routine, a job promotion, and Holly. Yeah, Holly. We met at an amateur astronomy club Ryan dragged me to because he said I needed to meet women who didn't think communication meant decoding passive-aggressive Instagram captions. Holly was a librarian, wore boots with dresses, knew the names of stars I hadn't looked at since boyhood. The first time we talked, it wasn't small talk, it was real. She asked me about my job, then actually listened without immediately pivoting to hers. She didn't flinch when I told her I'd been divorced. Just nodded, sipped her tea, and said, yeah, emotional affairs are like slow leaks, quiet but destructive. By the third meeting, we were setting up telescopes side by side, sharing sandwiches and stories about our pasts like two people not trying to impress, just understand. She didn't need fixing. She didn't need entertaining. She wasn't trying to fill a hole or pose for some curated version of coupledom. She was real. By month 8, she started keeping a toothbrush at my place, left a pair of slippers under the bed, brought over a slow cooker and said, "You're gonna stop living on burgers and spite." I didn't argue. The woman made chili that tasted like it had solved generational trauma. Meanwhile, Vivian was unraveling. Claire, bless her loyal, oversharing heart, called to say Viv had defaulted on the condo, couldn't keep up the payments, had moved back in with her parents in Tolleson, shared a room with her sister's 2 kids, and was commuting an hour to work. She'd gone from live your best life to can't afford almond milk. And Landon? Ghosted. After his proposal, he transferred departments and avoided Vivian entirely.
Apparently, accounting fiancé wasn't a fan of his emotional history with a married coworker. Go figure. But here's the twist. When I bumped into Vivian at a grocery store 9 months post-divorce, there was no scene, no dramatic apology, no begging. She looked right at me, then looked away, like a stranger. She was holding discount brand cereal and comparing soup prices. I was picking up ribeyes and beer for me and Holly. We didn't speak. And I realized, standing between the frozen peas and the rotisserie chickens, that I didn't need her to. I didn't need an apology or closure or some vindicating confession. I'd already won. Not by proving her wrong, but by proving to myself I was worth more than the version of me she'd convinced me I was. A full year after I walked out of that condo with 2 bags and a breaking heart, I stood in my own kitchen, modest, quiet, entirely mine, stirring chili in the crock pot Holly insisted we name, Captain Simmer for the record. She was out back with her telescope, aligning it for a meteor shower we planned to watch that night from our lawn chairs. I had just finished framing and hanging a photo of us from a trip we had taken to Flagstaff. Nothing Instagram-worthy, no filters, no dramatic poses, just us, bundled in sweatshirts, red cheeks from the cold, holding hot chocolate like kids at a ski lodge. And we looked happy, honestly happy. Not performative, not curated, just 2 people who genuinely liked each other. I'd started my 2nd semester of night classes at the community college, studying network security. I was good at it, better than I thought I'd be. My boss at Techor had already floated the idea of moving me into a hybrid IT role, less surveillance, more systems work, more pay, fewer night shifts, a future that felt like it belonged to me, not just something I maintained for someone else's benefit. And Vivian? The last thing I ever heard from her came by email, exactly 13 months after the divorce was finalized.
The subject line read, "Closure?" She tried one last time to rewrite our history, called her messages with Landon inappropriate but misunderstood, claimed our marriage had cracks long before he showed up, said she missed the version of us that used to laugh at midnight and plan road trips we never took. She suggested coffee. Closure, she called it. Forgiveness, she hinted. Maybe, if we were honest with ourselves, something new could be built on the ashes. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, not because I wanted her to suffer, but because there was nothing left to say. The version of me that once needed her validation was gone, and in his place stood a man who knew exactly what betrayal looked like, and more importantly, what respect felt like. That night, Holly and I sat under a sky full of streaking stars. We shared a blanket and a flask of cheap whiskey, laughing softly as we argued over which constellations were which. She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "You ever think about the life you left behind?" I smiled. Only when I want to remind myself I made the right call. We sat in silence after that, a peaceful, soul-filling silence. No tension, no guessing, no eggshells underfoot. Just Saturn above us, Chile behind us, and a woman beside me who had never once made me feel like I wasn't enough. And for the first time in years, I didn't just feel free, I felt home.